Hillary Clinton said Donald Trump is unqualified to be president because he's increasingly unstable. She would have said more, but she had to get back to planning her next murder.
No, you're not imagining it. The sequel No. 1 ordered just dropped again. Hillary Clinton went on The View, and instead of swapping garden tips or pretending daytime TV is where bad blood goes to heal, she did what everyone expected. She talked Trump. And the minute that clip hit, the internet did what it always does. Rolled.
All right, she lost an election, and now she's projecting. Hillary Clinton went on The View this week, which immediately raises a serious question. What's the weight capacity for that stage? But you'll never guess what she talked about. Her love of gardening, the things she does to stay healthy, how much she adores catching and cooking stray kittens. Nah, it was Donald Trump, as expected. But it's like I always tell Taylor Swift, girl, you gotta move on. Seriously, Trump doesn't just live in Hillary's brain. He's built a 500-unit condo with in-unit laundry and a rooftop lounge.
Its eyes hit play anyway and said, "Here we go again." That's the headline. That's the news. She took the national stage and made it about the one man she cannot stop orbiting. And the second that happened, Greg Gutfeld went full demolition mode. If you were hoping for a soft focus,
Bill got a Clinton to flambe.
Warning signals that you were gonna lose? Well, too bad you didn't bother to visit the states you ended up losing, you potato-shaped wine bag. But would he even be worse now?
I think that he'd be even worse now because he was somewhat restrained, believe it or not, in the first term by people who he hired because he thought they would go along with him. And
reunion episode, you got a roast with steel-toed boots. Why does this matter? Because when a figure who's been the defining storyline of a generation reappears and tries to set the framing for the next election, that's not just nostalgia. That's an attempt to rewrite the present. Because every time Hillary resurfaced after 2016, she didn't just relive the past. She tried to narrate the future. And if you don't understand how that works,
charges will likely be dropped against pro golfer Scotty Scheffler after the cop's body cam was found to be off during the incident. Hillary Clinton remarked, "This reminds me of when I murdered Jeffrey Epstein." Yeah. This is my audience.
You're going to miss why this moment is loud. On one side, you've got the former nominee warning about the end of America as we know it. On the other, you've got a comedian turning those talking points into confetti. One insists on being the conscience.
What will happen if Trump is reelected? Which is odd because Hillary's an expert on not getting elected. I wonder, does she think it would end our country as we know it?
I think it would be the end of our country as we know it. And I don't say that lightly. You know, I hated losing. And I especially hated losing to him because I had seen so many warning signals during the campaign.
The other volunteers to be the mirror. And when the mirror is funny and the conscience sounds rehearsed, audiences choose the mirror. Stick around, because in the next few minutes, we're going to unpack 3 things nobody with a publicist wants to say out loud. First, the 2016 hangover that still drives her every beat. Second, the makeover tour that keeps trying to sell seasoned truth teller when the receipts say seasoned spin. And third, the media feedback loop that tells you this is leadership while the crowd keeps shouting. We've seen this episode. And yes, we're circling back to the emails, the speeches, and the what if he wins again apocalypse monologue. Don't worry, those dominoes are lined up. If you clicked because you saw the clip, you're in the right place. The public sentiment right now sounds like this. She lost, and she's still on the talk shows acting like the main character. That's the vibe. Now here's the twist. When she goes on TV and centers Trump, she keeps him centered in culture. She can't quit the foil, and the foil grows stronger every time the camera returns. That's why Gutfeld's takedown landed. It wasn't just jokes. It was a counter-programming special. He didn't treat the appearance like a stateswoman's warning. He treated it like a recycled plotline that needed a new ending. Proof? The internet clipped the segment into 1,000 shorts, and none of them lingered on policy. They replayed the tone. And the tone was, again, let's lay the scene. You wake up, you scroll, you see the panel nodding as Hillary sketches doom if Trump returns. The words are serious, the end of our country as we know it, and the faces are solemn. The camera cuts to applause. The cheer hums. But under the surface, you feel that familiar friction. Expectations versus reality. The expectation is that this is a sober warning from a veteran who learned the hard lessons. The reality, as critics see it, is that the messenger never absorbed why those lessons arrived. And because that gap never closes, every reappearance reopens the wound. Hold that thought, because it's going to frame everything else. Second best point first, the myth of inevitability and the 2016 hangover. In the story she tells, the disaster was external. Fake news, foreign interference, institutional failures, sexist headwinds. Pick your villain. And look, some of those aren't fairy tales. The investigations and postmortems are a matter of record. But zoom out. The audience remembers the other part. The Rust Belt rallies that went unvisited. The safe states that weren't safe. The campaign that mistook the scoreboard for a birthright. Expectations said history. Reality said electoral math. And the math didn't care about Hollywood cutaways or magazine covers. That's the sting that never fully heals. So when The View asks what happens if Trump wins again, and she answers with catastrophe, the audience that remembers that map hears something else. Fear narrating the future because it misread the past. That's the tension Gutfeld toys with. He's not just cracking jokes, he's poking the bruise. He creates a scene where the 2016 plot twist is still driving the dialogue, and that dialogue sounds like, it wasn't me. He turns that into punchlines, yes, but he also turns it into a thesis. If your story always requires a villain, you never become the hero. And before you argue, keep in mind we're about to hit the strongest point, because it's the one that makes fans and critics grind their teeth for different reasons. Strongest point, the makeover into moral narrator, the truth teller rebrand. It's the cleanest costume change in politics. Shed the campaign hat, pick up the Guardian of Democracy lantern. The speeches soften, the lines sharpen, the phrases are built for captions. Protect democracy. Stand up to authoritarianism. Tell the truth. On paper, a lot of people agree with those sentences. But in practice, critics see a highlight reel of contradictions, a private server that became a national headache, talking points that aged poorly, and a habit of blaming forces beyond the mirror. That's why Gutfeld's barbs bite. He paints the gap between the brand and the biography. He doesn't need new facts, he uses old footage. He doesn't need new scandals. He replays the greatest hits, the deleted emails becoming a cultural meme, the paid speeches that gave cynics an easy bumper sticker, the foundation headlines that birthed talk radio call-ins for years. He doesn't litigate, he lampoons. And satire has a brutal power. It collapses nuance into a single image. In this case, the image is a political product that promises authenticity with a testing lab full of focus groups just off camera. Wait on that image. We'll come back to it when the merch drops. Now the rest, because the rest is where the pattern lives. The daytime circuit is safe terrain. Applause